Hi, everyone. Today I'll be walking you through the background, methods, findings, and then ending with a discussion and conclusion. So just to set the context, there's a lot of narratives that we're seeing, as was shared earlier, around AI being used for good, AI unleashing opportunities for sustainable development goals, et cetera, productivity and efficiency. And one of the big areas that we're seeing in this AI for good space is around AI being used to enhance financial inclusion for people who are unbanked and underbanked. About 1.4 billion people globally, majority of whom are women, are unbanked, and many more underbanked. So the idea is that machine learning is an opportunity to access finance for people who are outside of these financial folds. This is a massive market and it's growing. It's a huge application of AI globally. So what are these tools exactly? So picture your smartphone, picture an app that you download onto your smartphone. That app gets access to any and all data on your smartphone. And the way that it's working is it's assessing your creditworthiness, defined as your ability to repay and your willingness to repay, through various types of alternative data that's found on your phone. So your ability to repay, so how much money do you have, could be things like your geolocation. Are you going to and from the same place every day? That would be an indication you have a stable job. Your type of phone, your SMS, your financial records. And then there's also your willingness to repay. How trustworthy are you? What is your behavior? Now here it's looking at your psychology and your linguistic behavior picked up through your phone, through apps, photos, through other types of digital trace data that you use on your phone. This goes through a machine learning model and it provides a credit score and terms and access to a loan or not. Happy to share more about the model or how this works if folks are interested. So I want to understand in what ways do the underlying logics, design choices, and management decisions of these tools by fintechs themselves embed or challenge gender biases and impact gender equity and access to finance. So my theoretical foundations are feminist and post-colonial theory and science and technology studies, recognizing that technology is not developed passively, and knowledge is situated. So the social context of technology developers influence design choices that become embedded in these technologies. And Ruha Benjamin's idea of do-gooderness notes that this do-gooderness provides a moral cover while ignoring power hierarchies and has this potential for quote-unquote default discrimination. So I conducted 25 interviews with these fintechs, did thematic analysis and abductive approach for my methods. So there's two mindsets. The first is this American banking mindset, that creditworthiness is not just about your wealth, but it's about how trustworthy you are. And the idea of creditworthiness has actually had roots in the United States. It's tied to this idea of meritocracy. Anyone can lift themselves up by their bootstraps. Bill Fair and Earl Isaac are two of the grandfathers considered of credit scoring, so they turned the subjective art of creditworthiness into more of objectiveness through credit scoring and automating the credit score. Credit scoring has proliferated globally as sort of an export from the 2000s onward, so it's actually a fairly recent phenomenon globally. So you have this idea of ability to repay and your willingness to repay that these models are assessing. Now, secondly, you have this Silicon Valley mindset, this idea that data is the truth, leave it to the machines. As Dante says, something that we know, for instance, if a customer has more than 12 apps in the finance category, they tend to be more than 2 times riskier than somebody with less than 5 apps in the finance category. Now, how to explain it from a psychological point of view, behavioral psychology point of view, is kind of challenging because we really leave it to the machines to assess information value. And as Amir says, I always believe data is the truth. Data will never lie. This is combined with another mindset around being purpose-driven and profit-motivated that also is very grounded in Silicon Valley. Jack puts it, this is an awesome opportunity to use devices that people already have to increase their financial agency and autonomy. Chris notes, objectivity, realism, execution. That's my mantra. Can we execute well? Can we make money doing it? So what this leads to is the best way to be fair is to be unaware. Leave it to the machines. The machine knows best. And also being blind to different demographics, including gender. As Sarah notes, because I'm not using gender in any of our scoring, it means anyone coming onto the platform has a very level playing field with anyone else. You don't have to think about in the back of your mind, what if? But what this actually leads to is a lack of grappling with the ways that data, features, and proxies, and access to the technology itself are gendered. And it also, interestingly, the interviewees note that gender can still be learned. So there are various variables that are gendered, like income, employment status, and sector. So women face higher unemployment rates globally. They're more often in informal economy, and linked to caretaking norms, they spend more time on unpaid care work and do more part-time work. Kumar recognizes we don't train them on gender, but then there's a lot of correlated variables when you look at gender. Income is one of them. But more than that, the sort of employment segment matters a lot. And just like patriarchy, they're kind of learning that men are better to give loans to over time. Obviously, we want to be equitable, but typically the models are black boxes. So it kind of complicates and highlights that this black box is further hides these different implications. And Prashanth puts it, at a technical level, you know that can still happen, which is not avoidable. It's a preference towards a more stable segment, referring to men. So what this picture paints altogether is that you have this American banking mindset where these algorithms are assessing not only your income and your ability to repay, but how trustworthy you are. And this this results in gender norms being linked to gender differences in the variables, which the algorithms then learn from. This is combined with the Silicon Valley mindset of data being the truth. Data will never lie, and leaving it to the machines, which results in this lack of grappling with the ways that data, features, and proxy, etc., are gendered. The end picture is that it enhances access to finance overall, but there's gender differences in who accesses loans and loan sizes. Ultimately, less credit goes to women. There is a reported gender gap of around 33% in Kenya and sub-Saharan Africa, and it's almost 60% in India. So it's correlated to levels of gender inequality in a country. Kind of goes back to the oppressive things talk, actually. So you'll go towards giving loans towards more male borrowers, says Rohan. So unless you want to make a conscious effort to say more women, it's unlikely naturally for it to become much more gender equivalent. So why do fintechs see that there's these gender differences happening? What are their perceptions? There's demand side and supply side factors that are identified. First, they note that less women have access to the apps themselves because of the smartphone technology. Second, less women may choose to apply or select lower loan amounts. Women can face greater challenges using the app, and they note the proxies and features are gendered. By applying socio-structural explanations, we can see that these factors are all shaped by gender norms and structural inequalities. Gender digital divides impacts who has access to smartphones or not. Gendered household financial decision-making impacts choice. And gender differences in digital literacy and financial literacy impact the challenges in using the app. Meanwhile, these different proxies that are used in ability to repay algorithms are themselves gendered. So more men than women are accessing the technology, receive loans, and get higher loan amounts. But there's a catch, which is that women are deemed to be better repayers and are less likely to default. As Dante puts it, there's some local rules that apply globally. If you're a woman, you're a better repayer than man, full stop. So what are all the points here? So first, algorithms reflect their creators. They're results of the perspectives and priorities of their creators, which are shaped by the cultural, organizational, and institutional contexts and logics. The belief in the objectivity of the machine and the data combined with this mission to promote financial inclusion actually results in a limited critical reflection on the inherent subjectivity. This also combines this gender-blind approach that obscures the existing disparities and actually fails to address the underlying structural inequalities, thereby masking the reproduction of power hierarchies, and results in this objective algorithm paradox, whereas believing in objectivity actually hides some of these inequities. And then machine learning-based credit assessment actually results in these differences in lending where it increases access to finance overall, but not in gender equitable ways. And differences reported actually correlate to levels of gender inequality. But there's this key tension. Women are more likely to repay and repay on time and not default. So there's potential discriminatory effect in market inefficiency. And what's happening is they're actually optimizing for lifetime value. So it's optimizing from a profit metric. And again, happy to talk about that and connections to fairness. Fourth, and I like to introduce this concept of encoded gender norms, which machine learning is subject to. Key propositions being that data and features are gendered, as is technology access. Not considering the ways that data and features are gendered reinforces gender norms, and prioritizing inclusion while being quote-unquote gender blind comes at the cost of equity. So algorithms encode gender norms in ways that are very hard to spot. While gender norms can and do evolve, machine learning tools actually can impede this evolution under opaqueness and veils of objectivity, the extent being in relation to levels of gender inequality. So better than the status quo is not good enough. But there's an opportunity to disrupt encoding gender norms through more gender intentional and transformative processes. So as some final concluding thoughts, the idea that an AI is inherently objective and when left alone fair is really seductive and misleading. The reality is knowledge is situated and algorithms are instruments of values, not just of individuals, but of organizations and institutions. And this focus on doing good is insufficient. It lacks a critical reflection on the structural inequalities. And Women as Better Repairs but Not Getting Similar Loans reveals the promise of meritocracy is not achieved, oftentimes under this premise of optimizing from a profit perspective. So I'll leave it at that and welcome any questions.